Well, greetings, everyone. Here, this double dipping this year for the North Dallas Chamber. We were talking earlier, Jeff and Randall, myself and Jeff. I think this is almost 30 years I've been doing this with y'all. Wish it was better circumstances this time. So every year I have to come up with a new topic. And of course, we could call it, the virus that killed New York or whatever you want to call it. But I decided to go with the beat goes on. Down under, it's at least one adult kangaroo apart. When I spoke in Laredo, it was a Zoom meeting. They said that's equivalent to one adult rattlesnake in Texas. And when I did an event in Florida, they said that's a one adult gator. So we need to come up with something unique about Dallas, on that one that does that type thing. I love this one. I need to back to social distancing from the fridge. I don't know. I put on first day I've worn a tie since March the 11th. I will tell you all this. And I put on my pants. They did fit, but I noticed they were a little bit tighter than normal. I don't know if any of y'all have gained any weight or not like that. I love this one. Even CVS is talking about social distancing. Please distance yourselves at least 6 feet apart or the average length of CVS receipt. Thank you. Well, I think that's pretty good humor if we can't laugh at ourselves. All right. So, this toilet paper run, I didn't understand the toilet paper hoarding. It's not that kind of virus, but again, our good humor. Oh, and we've invented all kinds of new stuff when we're at home here. I don't know if y'all seen the indoor luge racing or not, but someone had a lot of Amazon Prime boxes, obviously. And I think that's pretty creative. I don't know about y'all. And this is golf pong. Now, I'd never seen golf pong, and I thought that was pretty amazing. I have no idea how many hundreds of times they had to play that to hit that thing, but who knows? That was pretty cool. I'm not even a golfer. I'd want to do that one. That sounds neat. This next one, this is the new outdoor sport. We can play in our backyards. This is, you take preferably an empty adult beverage can, and with your battery-powered leaf blower, you shoot it in the garbage can. That's got to be a future sport coming up right there. Don't y'all think? Anyone give me a thumbs up on that one? That would be good. Yeah. And I love this one. The first official drink of our quarantine, this was back in March, and the Quarantini, which is gin and emergency, which basically told me someone had a lot of gin and they had a bad cupboard because the only thing they had to mix with it flavor-wise was emergency. I'm not a martini drinker, but if you've tried this, you can tell the rest of us about it. You will never look at one of these meetings the same ever again. Just pay attention to this. Just watch this. So, wine in the cup, tea bag, at least the end of it, and now you get it. So we were razzing Jeffrey and what have you with his mugs earlier today. Maybe that's it. By the way, I do have my Texas A&M mug, but it's seltzer, just pure seltzer and ice, nothing else like that. Oh, and this one, just look at the guy in the upper right-hand corner. And again, creativity is abounding, all this kind of stuff. I think that's pretty cool. A little bit of hustle there. All right. I came up with this topic every year I'm in Alaska. I came up with the beat goes on. When I work in Alaska, it's the end of January, beginning of February. And it's during the ceremonial start of the Iditarod. It is when they have fur rendezvous, the trappers bring in all their hides and pelts from the bush. They have a big auction. They have an outdoor carnival, outdoor amusement park. Can you imagine kids on a roller coaster at 20 below zero having fun out there? It's pretty amazing. And they have this ice sculpting contest. And I thought, what a great topic for this. So I use Sonny and Cher as that example. And you talk about great words in that song and the beat goes on. And I don't mean la-di-da-di-da, la-di-da-di-dee. I mean these words because it fits what we're going on right now. Change. Charleston was once a rage. Folks, we used to dance at Charleston. And we still dance. We don't do the Charleston. Randall, y'all on MLS. See, I'm old enough. I grew up in a sheep ranch in Montrose, Colorado, up in the mountains in southwestern Colorado. I can remember when I had my appraisal company that the MLS was a paper booklet printed once a month. And every Friday you got an addenda sheet of any new listing or any pending listings or whatever. And you still sell real estate, but Randall, aren't you glad that you're not using those paper booklets anymore? And in fact, this whole thing is expediting And actually, I think it's making our realtors and other people more productive because they're not having to shuffle all the papers. Mini skirts the current range. Well, that was 1967. I hope I live long enough to see mini skirts again. And then teeny boppers are newborn king. Well, that was my group back in the 70s, teeny boppers. Millennials, you can't call millennials teeny boppers anymore. The oldest millennial this year turns 40, guys, 40 years of age. That's absolutely amazing. And oh, by the way, millennials, you can beg off being an adult in your 30s, but when you turn 40, it's over. You're an adult officially. All right. So let's look at the ugly slide number one, not the last of ugly slides. Weekly unemployment. Now, before all this started in March, the most people in a 7-day period in the history of the United States to apply for unemployment benefits in 1 week was 695,000. That rounds off to 100,000 a day. That was in October of 1982. And then it comes along the week 7 days ending March 25th, and we did almost 5 times the prior record in 1 day. And then the next week, 6.6 million and 6.6 million and 5.2 and 4.4 and 3.8. And man, do y'all realize that our unemployment rate now is 22%? 22%. Well, now, in my lifetime, I've never seen the U.S. unemployment rate at 22%, and it's not done yet. This Thursday, you're gonna add a couple million more to this paper. I'm gonna tell you that. I'm gonna tell you that. I'm gonna tell you that. Now, it's some good news here, so don't take it all as bad news. First of all, we're in a recession. I don't care what anyone says. Recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. First quarter of this year. That's January, February, March, and we're now in April, May, June, and it's -2. It's going to be negative. There's no way we can turn around, make this all positive this amount of time. I'm using Goldman Sachs forecast. Why? Well, first of all, I got about 20 economists just in their U.S. macro department. Secondly, I like Goldman because when they get new information, they make new decisions. If they don't, no matter what their forecast was, if they have better information, they can make a more accurate forecast. They do. So here's what they're saying. They're saying that we're going to be -9% in Q1. We'll talk about that in a second. We'll plunge 34% down in Q2. Remember, that's a total value of all goods and services we make. Whoa. We have never dropped 34% in 1 quarter in the history of the United States in GDP. But Goldman says we turn positive in Q3. And I kind of think that's true. Just look what's opening up as even about here in Dallas today. I was giving another presentation here for our company at Stewart Title. Even out and about here today, there's a lot more activity. Yesterday, this is expected. If further west Texas, you've seen a tumbleweed rolling through town, but we didn't see that. They're showing us 19%. They're showing us down 6.2% for the year. I don't think I'm going to be that optimistic. My numbers show us down at the end of the year 10 to 14%, but nevertheless, what you're looking at right now, if Goldman's correct, is one of the deepest and shortest recessions we've ever had. That's pretty amazing. And the quicker we get back to work. Now, let me give you the good news about this. The good news is last week, the preliminary number for Q1 came out from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and they said that we only went down in first quarter GDP 4.8%. So right at half of Goldman's estimate. That's pretty positive, folks. Amazing. Now, the ugly one, remember we were at 22%. Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis says that we're going to hit 32% by the end of June. Now, that means, well, we currently, think about this, we currently have 36 million people unemployed in the U.S. The total workforce is around 164 million. And that means another 11 million will lose their jobs between now and the end of June. Folks, that's just unheard of, except one of my friends, an economist friend, asked me, he said, we've never seen 32% unemployment. I said, oh, I have, but not nationwide. And I want to talk about Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans and why this is not a Hurricane New Orleans Katrina event. Hurricane Katrina comes in, New Orleans gets decimated, and by the way, a week later, much of it went underwater, a week after the hurricane. And look at this. So you can see the job losses over 2 months, plunged roughly about 1 out of every 3 jobs gone. And it barely recovered, and it recovered slowly. In fact, you could say it didn't ever recover because they never got back the jobs they lost. But herein lies the difference with what's going on right now. In New Orleans, the recovery plan was for politicians to point their fingers at each other. That was it. There was no leadership that said, here's what we're doing. They didn't even pump out some of the neighborhoods for 9 or 10 months. Y'all need to understand that that was just a political stance and no activity, all show and no go, all hat, no cattle, if you want to talk it that way. So what we have today is just the opposite. I think we have the two most qualified individuals trying to get this country started up again. And first of all, prevent it from going deeper and get it started up again. And that's our Secretary of the Treasury, Mnuchin, who's brilliant as far as I'm concerned, and Powell, Chairman of the Federal Reserve, also brilliant. And why am I so positive of these two people? Well, first of all, they're business people, incredibly successful business people. And Mnuchin used to run billions of dollars on Wall Street. Powell, what I love about Powell, he's never been an academic. He's not an economist, thank heavens. Yet he's chairman of the Fed. He's an attorney that used to do large financial dealings, funding and what have you. Powell understands, both these people understand, if you run out of cash, game over. Imagine our economy like this right now is like a fish tank that sprung a leak. First of all, if you don't plug the leak immediately, urgency, sense of urgency, all the fish perish. And so the first thing they did, and the PPP and everything else that was done was the right thing to do. Now, fortunately, Powell and Mnuchin could look back on what wasn't done right in 08 and 09. Think about Powell as chairman of the Fed. Realize in the first 30 days, Powell provided more funding and liquidity to the U.S. economy than both the Federal Reserve and the presidency and Congress did in all of 2009. You need to understand we had these people that acted quickly, acted correctly. And so I have a lot of hope and faith in these two people. I said this on March the 11th, the first one of these I did, and I'm going to say it again. We will not be done with this by 4th of July, but on the 4th of July, we're going to have to be at the beach, at the creek, on the lake, at the condo, in the backyard, have an adult cold one, and feeling a lot better about it than we're feeling right now. And you're just seeing this opening up as we're talking about as we speak. That's going to continue. That's good news. This will not be over. Oh, and this will not be without pain. You know, one of the estimates I've already heard is 30% of the restaurants that close will never reopen. In fact, I'm going to challenge y'all. I want you to pick out your favorite restaurant at least one night this week, if not 3 nights this week, and go and have dinner there, or at least get curbside. And the reason I say that is those type of businesses live on day-to-day cash flow, and they need that money to stay in business, folks. Now, I'm a commercial appraiser by trade, and the way we appraise properties, we look at comparable sales. Other similar properties have sold. Now, I'm going to tell you, these are not good comparable sales. Sometimes you have good comparable sales on a property you're appraising, sometimes you don't. I actually appraised a Sol rocket missile plant north of Salt Lake City back in the 90s. Never found a comparable sale for that. So yeah, you just take it as it is. But so let's look at 3 events. 2 of them are pandemics, last 2 pandemics we had before this one, and a seismic event, 9/11. And then we're going to look at 6 economic and real estate variables. Oh, and a few other things. We're going to look at annual data. Now, I live in Houston. Hurricane comes in, we lose a lot of jobs, 10s, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 jobs in 1 month or 2 months, but then it comes back. So the way you look at a hurricane is year before and the year after, did it deflect that flow? And that's one of them. And secondly, we need to admit that in 01, when 9/11 happened, and in 08 and 9, H1N1 swine flu was 2009, we already are in a recession where those blue boxes are on the bottom. I mean, these are major events. One other thing while I'm talking about 9/11, I don't know how 9/11 hit you, but I thought when 9/11 happened, I can remember wondering how will this country even recover in the next decade? And you know what? 6 months later, we're pretty much back at it. And I think the biggest change was the hassle of TSA, but I'm willing to put up with that, if you know what I mean. I just wish there was something as easy as TSA to help fix this right now, but there isn't, unfortunately. So, all right, what happened to home sales through all this? Randall, pay attention here, man. You and I were talking about home sales went up through 9/11. How about year before, year of, year afterwards? And remember, do y'all remember how many of us stayed at home in September, October, November, and 9/11 because we were afraid to go out for fear it would happen again? It went up through SARS. Well, SARS was a pandemic. We're learning it's not nearly as large. Now, sales went down in 08 before H1N1, but that's because we had a recession. And the reason it went down, at least nationwide, was we'd overbuilt housing. Housing caused the recession. That's in commercial real estate. Now, one other thing, Randall, in fact, he could be given part of this speech. I know this. with Eddie Holiday Company. Think about this. We've been at home kind of bunch. We were right after 9/11, kind of a bunch. And when you're at home that much, your home becomes that much more important to you. And we're already starting to see a surge of apartment dwellers that are saying, hey, I don't want to live in an apartment anymore. And Randall, that's part of that big increase in number of listing viewings and people looking for properties. And then there's also, there's a couple other ones you can laugh about. One of them you won't laugh about. One of them, you're in a home you don't like. It's just not what you need. And you realize, shoot, if I'm going to spend this much time here, it's not going to be here. Or the third option is you've spent so much time at home that the divorce is coming and you're both going to need a new home. And well, we won't even worry about that one yet. Thanks for laughing on that. I hope that's not the case. But I had a friend say, hey, look at that. It went up during H1N1. And I call that a dead cat bounce. And the cat died in 08. It just bounced in 09. What we did is we foreclosed so many homes in 2008. We sold them in 2009. Oh, and we sold them. If you look at this one, this is that same thing with median prices. You can see that we sold those homes in 09 at a massive discount. We had originally purchased them, median price in the U.S. in 06, around 225,000. We sold them in 09 for 50,000 less. We actually created a whole new commercial real estate asset class, single family rentals. Absolutely amazing. But look at median prices, guys. Look at median prices. They went up through 9/11. They went up through SARS. Well, I don't think H1N1 caused. I don't think H1N1 caused home prices to stabilize. That was a different scenario. 30-year mortgage rates. And now here's some great news. They went down through SARS. They went down through 9/11. They may have stabilized at SARS. It went down through H1N1, but let's be honest, that was a function of the recessions and not anything else. I will tell you this. I'll tell you 3 times. Lower interest rates are going to help us out of this. It's going to a lot of people the ability to refinance. Unemployment rate. Well, we already talked about that. Remember, we said that we're at 22% now. We're heading to 32% by forecast. Unemployment rate went up through 9/11. It should have recession. Kind of flat through SARS, but SARS had nothing to do with that. Unemployment was going up in 08, 9, and 10. It peaked, but below 10%, but that's on an annualized basis. Commercial real estate sales, they went up through 9/11, or let's say they're flat. They went up through SARS. Commercial real estate sales plunged in 2008, but for a reason. I remember I told you overbuilt real estate, both housing and commercial properties in most cities, and it caused it. But the reason that commercial sales plunged so bad, I mean, literally from the peak in 07 to the trough in 2009, commercial sales plunged 88%. But the reason was you couldn't get a loan. There was no money available to borrow money to purchase a property. And even worse, if you had a property that had a mortgage coming due, unlike houses, most commercial loans are not completely amortizing, and you have to refinance typically every 10 years. You couldn't even get money to refinance your property when it was due, and we saw that. Now, I've talked to commercial lenders the last 2 weeks, national commercial lenders, and here's what they said. I said, what is different today in commercial lending arena on real estate than 60 days ago? And both of them essentially said the same thing. First thing that came out is rates today are much lower than they were 60 days ago. So that's positive on housing buyers too, Randall. The second thing they said is that we're not getting back as quick to our requests because they're so inundated with paperwork, whether it's taking longer to prove some of the properties, PPP if you're a commercial bank or what have you. And the third thing they both were adamant about, they're simply not making any money, any loans at all on leisure and hospitality properties. Now, I'm sitting in like I said, in the downtown Hilton Garden Inn. It's a pretty big property. There were 4 rooms last night that were occupied when I checked the front desk. And if you don't think that leisure and hospitality is ground zero, you just don't know. Lastly, we're going to look at capitalization rates. The higher the capitalization rate, the higher the risk. Of course, risk. We had high risk during the recession, 9/11. It went down through SARS. SARS had nothing to do with that. It rose because the recession had nothing to do with H1N1. And now you're going to say, so Ted, why have you talked about all these things in the last 3 events? Because I want to show you how much we forgot about how our economy and how we've been impacted. I think you all pretty much agree. These 2 pandemics and seismic event really didn't change things much. How about this one? But first of all, let's look at swine flu, H1N1. I bet you either didn't know this or you forgot this. In 2009, 60.8 million Americans contracted swine flu. 274,000 were hospitalized, 12,500 perished. Whoa, I bet y'all forgot that. You know, we're talking about less than 4 million people in the world being attributed to having coronavirus. And yet we had 61 million Americans contract swine flu. Now, I'm in no way am I telling you that this is anything like coronavirus. To me, they're not comparables, but it does that. Now, first of all, if you look at the total numbers, that's not many people if you think about the number of people in the world, 7 billion. First of all, that total number, I'm just going to round up to 4 million. We know that's an underestimate and there's some good news in what I'm going to talk about. So stick with me on this story. Let's say it is 4 million people that have had it. Well, no, we've had a lot more than that. First of all, we know that many people have had such mild cases. They didn't even go to the doctor. They didn't know they had it or anything else like that. So we've undercounted millions of people. That's good news, by the way. Second thing is, China lies like my dog Scruffy lied. Now, let me tell you about my dog Scruffy. Lion Scruffy dog, as I always called him. When I was a prof at Texas A&M, we moved to Houston, where Stewart title. My wife, who grew up on a ranch in Ouray, Colorado, and my daughters figured they needed a guard dog, an outside dog. So they went to the pound in College Station, got Scruffy, this little 6-week-old puppy, grew up all the way to be 28 pounds. He was supposed to be an outside dog. He's an inside dog. He's supposed to be a guard dog. This dog was scared of his own shadow. Scruffy dogs, well, the only thing Scruffy was good at was lying. I'm an early morning person. I often am up at 3 or 4 in the morning working, and when I would get up, Scruffy would try to tell me he hadn't eaten in 2 weeks. But I was making so much racket, I'd feed him to shut up. I know the second I left home, whether to go to the airport for a speech like this or, anything else, I know that he convinced my wife when she woke up he hadn't eaten, and then he convinced the daughters that he hadn't eaten. And I know that dog on some days, quite literally ate 6 meals, because we know, we checked it out. Lion Scruffy dog. All right, so Scruffy dog. All right, so let's, first of all, this virus did originate in Wuhan province of China. Oh, just a sidelight here. Do y'all know why Italy had so many cases? Because until a month ago, they had 3 nonstop flights a week into the region in Italy, Milan, where all the cases of coronavirus came about. Aren't you glad that our president cut off all flights from China in January? Thank heavens. So, but let's talk about China. China claims they only had 83,000 cases. That's a big lie. Gosh, guys, let's say they didn't lie by a factor of 100% or 200%. Let's say they lied by a factor of 1,000%. 10 times more people had it. But there's some good news here. Because if 830,000 people had it in China, remember China has 1.4 billion people. This may not be as contagious as we otherwise thought. And if that's good news up front, that not everyone will get it at once. That's part of it. Secondly, this link down here on the bottom right hand side, if you go to that and click it, it's going to show you the coronavirus rate in all the countries in the world. And there's one entry that's unique. It's called the Princess Diamond. And I'm going to take you back to March, when they had a cruise ship off of Japan, one of the Princess cruise ships, had 3,700 crew and passengers. It had been out to sea over 2 weeks. It came in quarantine for 2 weeks. So now they're on this boat for 4 weeks. They had active coronavirus from day one. And lo and behold, only 713 ever came down with that. Now 713 out of 3,700, and you're together on a cruise ship. And they only had 13 fatalities. So I think there's hope on this, and that's good news. Now, I'm not going to belittle deaths, but guys, just in the flu season, fall of 2017, spring of 2018, we had 61,000 Americans perish just from flu, particularly bad flu season, by the way. Well, good news. We started this downturn in great financial shape. You think about this, Texas, 4th best job growth in the country going into this. That's great news. Be glad you're not one of those states on the right-hand side. Now, I say this every time, I'm going to say it again because it always needs to be said. We have this illusion in Texas that we are just the best place to do business, and we're not, period. Not the best anyway. Each year, the Tax Foundation looks at 5 taxes: corporate income tax, personal income tax, retail sales tax, unemployment tax, and property tax. But we rank 13th best. There are 12 states better than us. Florida, 4th best in the country. They're the big winner. Number 1's Wyoming, number 2 South Dakota, number 3 is Alaska. Nobody's relocating their business there. A lot of them are relocating to Florida. Our problems in Texas, I'll just put it up front. Number 1, property taxes. We have a franchise tax issue. Years ago, when I was, and then we had the head of real estate for Dow Chemical in College Station. And I asked him, I said, I know you're looking for a new plant site. Where in Texas are you going to put it? He says, no. He says, I got 5 states I'll go to before I come to Texas. I said, why? He says, well, first of all, you do have a bad property tax. I'll agree with that. He says, but you have a franchise tax. He says, and a corporation pays a franchise tax even when they lose money. You only pay an income tax when you make money. He says, you need to get rid of that franchise tax. So other things we need to do. Now, here is total job growth. And I'm going to tell you why this is wrong the day it was released. First of all, this is Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington. You can see even with some job losses coming for the coronavirus, you're still growing at a phenomenal rate. 79,100 net new jobs. We know we lost more than that. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, as do our state workforce commissions, the way they get this, in the U.S., for example, they survey 145,000 businesses and government agencies every month. And they ask them these things: how many people do you have working? How many are part-time? How much they make per hour? How many you hire this period? How many you fire? Do you have any mass layoffs planned? And so it gives you a pretty good perspective. And you say, how could that be wrong? Because they ask these firms to report that in the payroll that includes the 12th of the month. And so all these firms that have 2 payrolls per month, that got reported in the first half of March before all the layoffs started from coronavirus. We're going to see this deteriorate rather dramatically. Let me show you. I'm going to score y'all the type of jobs you have and how that's going to respond to the coronavirus. Now, this is what they call super sector analysis. And just go to the bottom middle. In the U.S., 15.3% of all jobs are government in the U.S. Only 12% are in Dallas-Fort Worth MSA. And I'll give you a negative on this one. Why? Because government rarely fires people. They're last to lay off. They're slow to lay off. They don't fire people. So what you have in the U.S. is you had 15.3% of the workforce is protected, and only 12% is protected essentially here in Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm giving you a 10.2% leisure hospitality. And leisure hospitality is ground zero, as I told you. I cannot think of anything hit worse than restaurants, hotels, bars, resorts, spas, casinos. Just keep going. Yes, it's 10.6%. You're less. You have 10.2% leisure hospitality. Spoke one of these Zoom events equivalent to this last week in Orlando. They have 20% of all workers leisure hospitality. So think about this. In all these decades, Mouseland, Disney World, Disneyland, had only been closed 6 days. They've been closed since March. They'll be closed at least through May. And some of the analysts on Wall Street said they'll be closed until January of next year. And that's a lot of layoff on that. Give you a negative on education and health services, 16.3% as compared to 12.2%. You get a positive on professional and business, 17%. That's attorneys and real estate professionals, not lenders, but all the others. Positive on information, you say, well, it's not a big number. Well, information includes firms such as Microsoft and Google. Those are really good paying jobs, and y'all have a bunch of them. Overall, not bad. I'll give you a negative on manufacturing. One of the things that's come out of this, we're going to build a lot more stuff here, folks. We're going to manufacture a lot more stuff. That's a function of, first, getting away from China for manufacturing a lot of things, such as pharmaceuticals. And secondly, cheap energy. Cheap energy is going to bring a lot more manufacturing to us. I threw this one in. I'll also make sure that tomorrow that y'all get a copy of my PDF of this. You can send it from the North Dallas Chamber to anyone that would like it. This is the slide that you need to look at if you need to go to sleep tonight. Okay, this will put you right there. Recessions and oil prices. Now, unless you're in an oil producing area or you're working for an oil producing company, One of the great news is that oil prices and recessions always go down. Always, not quite. Look at that first recession, those bars going up and down, 73, 74, 75. Rising oil prices caused that recession, but in all the others, oil prices were either the same or much less when the recession was done. Why is that important? Well, if I gave everyone in the U.S. a tax cut, only 50% of the people would benefit. How could that be possible? Because only half the people, half the households in the U.S. pay any federal income taxes. Yet, if I reduce energy prices, 99.5% of people would win. They would win because their power bills, their gas consumption, everything else go down. You talk about oil. How come oil is so cheap? Well, think about it. American Airlines. If we go back to the first week in March, out of DFW, they had 237 flights a day into the New York region, whether it was New Jersey or LaGuardia or Kennedy or several other airports up there. Today they have 7. Went from 237 flights to 7. Southwest Airlines, just the same. In fact, it's tragic to see all these gains these airlines have made and profitability and capital they've built up, and it's just evaporating in front of them. And there's nothing they can do about it, which is tragic. I want y'all to get back on an airplane as quick as you can. Let's keep these people in business and not let them whittle down as much. But imagine, well, I used to track. My car gets 28 miles per gallon. I don't say that anymore. My car is now getting 7 weeks to the tank, because until this trip, I was doing 2.8 miles each day, each way to and from the office. I stopped burning any energy, guys. That's why it's so cheap. You can look and see what oil is right now, and here's a tragedy. We were able to deal, the oil industry, with going from, look at 2014. 2014, we averaged $100 a barrel many of those months. And then all of a sudden it sunk down. And you know what the industry did? They changed business. They cut expenses. And they found that they could be profitable in the mid $30 per barrel range, but today we're half that. We're losing, typical driller today, on every barrel from a new well, they're losing about half. Wow, that's amazing. It's going to be a while before this goes back up. Interest rates, another incredible thing, and this is going to help us get out of this recession quicker. That's why I think Goldman says it's going to be deep, incredibly short. Now, those recessions in the 70s and 80s, you can see over there, we actually had rates go up through a couple of those recessions. Thank heavens rates today are going down. And what we had in the 70s and 80s, we had this horrible thing. Worst thing you can have for commercial real estate, stagflation. That's a stagnant economy with an inflationary monetary system. That means literally, I remember praising back in the 70s, I saw some towns in the US go from like a 10% vacancy rate in offices, and 5 years later, they were 30% vacant. Yet at that same period of time, everything went up. Their insurance costs more, their elevator maintenance costs more, their escalators, their landscapers, their cleaning crews, the whole works. And so we don't have that today. In fact, well, first of all, step number one, and I got to put a caveat on this one. Nationwide, last Thursday, we hit the lowest residential mortgage rate in the history of the United States, 3.23%. But the caveat is, that's for the nation. Texas historically has rates much lower than the nation. That was my dissertation when I was in college back in the early 80s. My PhD, systematic differences in residential rates. We are actually seeing some very high credit-worthy people today getting conventional 30-year fixed rate loans for in the 2.6% range. That's unheard of. And why is that positive? Because those that still have a credit rating and their jobs will be able to refinance and have more money in their pockets. As you can see, by the way, the forecast there in 2000, 2001, that's Fannie Mae's forecast. Fannie Mae's forecasting rates down this year and even lower next year. And that's great news. Now, you may have heard the president say we're borrowing money free. He's technically correct. We are borrowing money free. The way we borrow money, we sell a treasury, 30-year treasury, for example. And we get, let's say it's $1 million treasury, we pay a 1.27% per year interest. Shoot, our inflation rate's over 1.5%, which means we're paying back fewer dollars of lower value than we're borrowing, so it's free, and that's true. For people in commercial real estate, that 10-year treasury, 0.64%, every commercial loan so many basis points above that, property type, borrower, risk, location, what have you, and I've never seen rates that low ever before too. Now, existing home sales. It's intriguing that existing home sales, at least before this downturn, Randall, you'll love this one, nationwide, were going up. Now, I don't know if y'all ever watched I Love Lucy. I told you I grew up in southwestern Colorado. We had one TV station and one radio station. That was it. So whatever was on, it was take or leave it. So as a young kid, I watched a lot of I Love Lucy. And I loved it when Ricky Ricardo would come in, say, Lucy, you got some explaining to do. And we got some explaining to do. Why did home sales in the U.S. go down from mid-2017 to mid-2019? Home sales went down. Yet, now think about this one, yet job growth went up, incomes went up, and interest rates were either flat or trending down. How come that was it? Now, the National Association of Realtors will tell us that was affordability. I'm going to say, A lot of this was, well, many people had money to purchase a home. They chose to spend that money differently. And I utilized, well, this one, it was kind of intriguing. I utilized a USA Today article from the money section. It's one of my tweets in January. My favorite tweet of the year still. And it noted in there that the average millennial spends $300 a month on alcohol. Now think about it. If you have a millennial couple, that's between the two of them, that's $600 a month. And if you throw in coffee, it's over $1,200 a month total between the two of them. And then I had a lady in Austin tell me, and don't forget our cable TV and 3 subscription for our feeds is $414 a month. You had a young couple spending $1,600 a month on discretionary items. The article called it Dry January. Kind of intriguing that Dry January is a monetary item. Here's forecast for home sales. And Randall, maybe our sales will work out this. Let's just focus on Fannie Mae. It's the most recent numbers. They're both April forecasts, but Fannie was almost at the end of the month. Fannie says this year our home sales will go down 15% compared to last year, but up 15% next year. I actually think home sales will be down more this year. And just take a look at this. Now, Stewart Title, we're traded on the New York Stock Exchange. We have 3 major competitors. We just did 10 days ago our first quarter earnings release. In our earnings release, we do not discuss anything that's happened outside of the quarter. In other words, if it's April and our earnings release is on January, February, March, we don't talk about April. 2 of our competitors do, and they noticed that purchase orders for title insurance from new home purchases, one of them said down 43% in the first 3 weeks in April, one of them down said 45%, 47%, it's 45% average. I would not be at all surprised if our home sales were down even up to 30% this year, but with incredible low rates, and if they stay low like Fannie's forecasting for next year, we can make all that up, folks, because affordability issues coming into play. You can see, just look at the bottom left-hand corner, months, they're showing us really down second and third quarter. And this next one over here, next year, the big months of gain are second and third quarter. That said, I don't know if you all had read this little tidbit. National Association of Realtors just a couple of weeks ago did a survey. In the prior 2 weeks, they looked at people that had signed a purchase contract on a home. 1 out of 3 people that in that 2-week period that had signed a purchase contract for a home had never been in the property physically. We are using a lot more technology, just like we're doing this today, just rather than us being all together like this. Home median prices, I don't expect home prices to go up at all this year. In fact, in some markets, they go down. Well, just we'll show you that in a second. I live in Houston. I expect home prices were already going down. Here's your home sales in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Just phenomenal. Just absolute. But you had a great economy. I expect a stutter. We had in the second quarter, maybe the third quarter, and we had a large number of people that opted not to list their homes. We had the largest number of homes in history withdrawn from multiple listing services. And but again, I think people are looking at these interest rates and those other things. We said the home's much more important to us now, and they're taking care of that. Just to put your market in perspective, and we're going to compare the 12 months ending March 2014 and the 12 months ending March 2020. Think about this. Sales in the U.S. from 2014 to 2020 were up 7.9%, and Dallas-Fort Worth 20%. Whoa, 250%. Price, the U.S. went up 37.7, y'all went up 51%. You just had a blowing and going market. And here's why I'm not anticipating your home values in aggregate to go down. And in fact, I almost need Randall to talk about this too. Think about this. In the last 7 years, in the DFW Metroplex, you added 750,000 jobs, 724,300. You issued permits, and a permit is for a dwelling unit. It could be apartment, a townhouse, a condo, duplex, a house, a mansion, whatever. Each one of those one building unit. 386,000 and change new dwelling units. You have almost 2 new jobs per new dwelling unit. We think you only need 1.25 to 1.5. Now, what it is, demand has outstripped supply, and the reason your prices rose, it was demand. It was not a bubble whatsoever. Now that said, I live in Houston. We're just the opposite. We only have 1 new job per new dwelling unit. We actually had home values going down before this hit. I expect home values to go down in Houston. And then I'll throw you the other extreme. Just go to Miami. They have 3 new jobs for every new dwelling unit. And that doesn't even include all the people that moved to Miami that don't have a job, don't need a job, that retired there. And we're not even counting them. So I'm not looking for a big decline in values. Randall, I don't know what you think on that one, but it'll be intriguing to see. This is another one. This one shows, I always like to compare, can you rent? And if you rent, will it pay for your mortgage? And my answer here is no. And you'll see this in a second. Rent Cafe, just like if you want to search for a home nationwide, you go to realtor.com. If you want to search for an apartment nationwide, you go to Rent Cafe. They show you floor plans, pictures. You can log on. You can look at tenant reviews, amenities, all that kind of stuff, just like realtor.com. Locations, maps, whole works. The average apartment rent in Dallas, as of this morning, $1,250 a month. Rents are up 4%. Remember, I told you underbuilt. This shows that right there. Average apartment size, 847 square feet. Now we got both these 20% down in FHA. And basically what you can see is, yeah, if you put 20% down, you have enough out of that $1,250 rent to pay principal and interest. $231 won't cover taxes and insurance. And it certainly won't under the FHA one. So what I'm thinking is, you're going to have great demand for your apartment still, and I'm not seeing rents go down. It will be interesting the next 15 days to see what percentage of apartment dwellers either make zero or only a partial rental payment. And that's going to be telling. It's kind of hard to make a payment when you don't have money in your pocket. Commercial real estate, these are nationwide. Don't worry, we're going to spend a lot of time on Dallas here in a second. We get an all-time record. These are all 12 months. So each bar is the prior 12 months. All-time record at the fourth quarter of 2007. In the next 24 months, that plunged 88%. We still haven't got back that record. Here's Dallas. Do y'all realize in the latest 12 months, ending the first quarter of this year, you sold more commercial real estate than any time in history? Why? Well, it's real simple, but we're going to do a segue here first. This is the total $1 million per quarter, not seasonalized, not annualized, that we sold in Dallas. So you get an idea here. All right? So here we are in Dallas in the quarter, total commercial real estate sales. And what I did is I looked at year-over-year change. So for example, in 2009, first quarter, compared to 2007 first quarter, remember after the recession, our commercial sales plunged to 85.7%. We may see this again, guys. We may be seeing this again right now. The reason I know that, in fact, we were announced this morning when I spoke at our Stewart title group, how much our order count's off in April of this year. We're down around 40% on commercial. That's what, at least here in the Dallas office. Now, this is why you sold so much real estate in Dallas. Cap rates. Value is equal to income divided by the cap rate. I'll show you that formula in a minute. But it's basically the higher the cap rate, the less you pay for the property. The lower the cap rate, the more you pay. Basically, what it says is cap rates for commercial real estate in Dallas are pretty much the same as they are in the US. So I got to ask you this question. Would you rather buy the average property in Dallas, commercial building of any kind, or the average property in the US? Dallas, the US. I'll take Dallas every day. Why? Look how much better the Dallas economy's grown. So for the same price, I'm getting a growing economy with that building, which means there'll be more and more and more demand. So one of the reasons you were selling so much commercial real estate is you had such a great economy. Now, this is the last downturn. These are national numbers. These are not that. I just want to show you what cap rates did in the last recession. Oh, and cap rates troughed either 2006 or 2007. They all peaked in 2009. And if you just look at that all, what it says is the average property in the last downturn, 08, 09, lost 10% in value just because of the increase in the cap rate. I think we've already seen that this time. Now, remember I told you value is equal to income by the cap rate. Larger the cap rate, less value. The less income, the less value. It was a Wall Street Journal article in April, and it talked about a survey done by Alignable. And they surveyed over 1,000 small businesses that had 50 or fewer employees. And in April, they asked them, did you make your April rent payment? And what they found out is 30% paid zero. 30% of all these firms, 50 or less, paid no rent at all. And 20% paid less than full rent. Guys, that means the income goes down on top. That means it's a value reduction. And that's what we're facing today in this marketplace. Now, I'm going to take us Florida now, because remember I keep telling you how leisure and hospitality is the hardest hit segment. Just bear with me on this one. This is the total, excuse me. This is the total dollar volume of sales of commercial hotels in Florida by all these years. You can see in 2007 we sold 6.63 billion of hotels. We had a recession. Literally in 24 months that dropped from 6.63 billion to half a billion. Guys, didn't recover those sales numbers for 8 years. And I just guarantee you, we just hit our hospitality industry just as hard as we did in 08 and 09. I'm just trying to tell you all this. This alone is why lenders are not going to lend on leisure and hospitality properties today. And hotel cap rates. We lost 13% in value just for the increase in cap rate in 2 months in Florida back in 07, 08. Then you look at average sales price. Oh, this average sales price, that's incredible. Now these drops are instantaneous because you can't sell it, you can't borrow money on it. Look at this. It went from an average value of $141,000 per room to $75,000. That's almost 50% reduction. I'm just trying to tell y'all things are tough out there. Dallas apartment sales, you say, well, shoot, apartments, they're not going to get hurt as much. Again, this is the same Real Capital Analytics data. What I did is I looked at the total dollar volume of sales in all the Metroplex. And you notice in 07, we're selling 4.1 billion. By 09, that was less than a quarter of that, folks. I think we're going to see this again. Whether it'll be this severe or not, we don't know. But I'm just trying to tell you all, and look how many years it took to get back to those sales numbers and back to those kind of values. Apartment cap rates, again, when risk goes up, you raise your risk level. If this is a measure of risk, we went to, almost 17% increase in that results in that much of a value decline, folks. And that's what we're seeing today. I'll talk, and just look at this one. This is different. Notice that our average value per unit really didn't drop. Remember, you were underbuilt in 2008 and 2009, and you're underbuilt today, and that's why I'm not as worried as much about your value. That makes you a little bit different. Just to catch up on hotels real quick, TREP said that before April, that less than 1% of the hotels missed their mortgage payment. They said it's up to 20% at the beginning of April. CBRE found that almost 60% of all hotel properties had less than 2 months of reserves. That means money to make their payment out of. Guys, reserves are gone at hotels now. They've essentially now missed 2 months payments with no income. Can you imagine, like I said, downtown, Hilton Garden Inn, last night, 4 occupied rooms. You can't pay for the doorman. You can't afford the doorman at that level. And CBRE found, and so we know they've chewed through all this money. And now CBRE, their other study said that 70% plus of surveyed hotels were considering closing. When I got ready to come do this event today for our office and combine with yours here on this one, several of the hotels I called around here were already closed. They just shut down. I said, there's no way to make money on this. Kind of intriguing, scary. All right, so let's wrap this thing up and get into some Q&A and stuff. What we're looking at, extremely deep and we hope short recession. I'm going to reiterate what I said on March 11th. I think while this will not be over by the 4th of July, We're going to be out and about more. We're going to be drinking a cold one at the beach, at the lake, in the backyard, on the porch, the condo, wherever that is, at the ranch. But it's going to, it will run its course. I'm going to reiterate, we didn't think we'd recover for a decade after 9/11, and 6 months later, we're up and running. Good news is we entered this downturn with the best total number of jobs and wage growth we've seen. All-time record number of jobs, best wage growth in over 10 years. Helping us to get out of this nationwide, not some markets like Houston and Midland, Odessa, which are going to get hurt by oil, but cheap interest rates, low interest rates, and cheap energy. We're already seeing a big manufacturing comeback. We're already making things such as respirators and masks and everything else, personal protection equipment. We're going to see more and more and more of that, guys. In fact, I fully anticipate that there are going to be big moves in Congress and the administration to completely vacate all manufacturing in China. Pharmaceuticals to start with, and then we'll go from there. I like this one. I took this picture of Germany in 2005. Now, believe it or not, I took the picture, didn't go eat at McDonald's, but Germans are just brilliant. They don't call it the drive-through, they call it the McDrive. Every McDonald's drive-through in the U.S. should be named McDrive. Who agrees with me on that one? Every one of them. Got to agree with that one. Guys, I wouldn't own a commercial property today without a drive-through. Why? Well, guys, think about every drive-through thing you've seen. Everything I'm doing now is drive-through. Drive by, drive-through. We'll show you that in a second. U.S. manufacturing, I think we're going to get a big long-term comeback. Not only are we bring back things like pharmaceuticals from China. Y'all, did you notice that Apple was the first retailer to close their retail store, the Apple Store? Did y'all realize they didn't close it because of, transmittability of this virus? They closed it because they were out of product. Remember, we hadn't had a flight from China in months. They had nothing left to sell. Critical component shortages and everything else. So we're going to see more and more manufacturing. It's going to hasten the paperless process in real estate. Randall, we're already doing paperless closings. And we're going to do more and more. We're doing remote online notaries, the whole works. And why is that important? Now, Randall, you and I talked about this beforehand. Guys, that allows a realtor more time to do value add than shuffle papers. And this is merely expediting this. In all of our businesses, we're expediting it. Who would ever imagine y'all would all go home and things ran just as good as we were in the office? And we'll talk more about that. Drive through everything. I wouldn't even own an apartment project today without a drive-through window, drop off checks and everything else like that. Office demand, ugly to me, other than leisure and hospitality right now. Office demand, we've forever reduced the demand for office space. We just don't need as much. We just proved that. My company, and I'm usually 5 days a week in my office. I go to my office because of bandwidth. Even though I have a fiber optic line going to my house, there's enough homes sucking Netflix off the front of me, before it gets to be at the end of the street, so to speak, that I got to make sure I have good bandwidth. And so our floors, we rent our space in Houston, Texas for our corporate headquarters, global headquarters. It's 15,000 square feet per floor. My floor on any day, every day I've been there, except today, since this thing started, there's a CEO in one quarter, the chief information officer in another, head of HR, and me. We got 15,000 square feet for 4 of us, and yet our company is still, we had the best first quarter in history. Our company's still doing everything we need to do. We just don't need office space to do it in. On the other hand, I think we've just forever increased the demand for industrial property. Everything that you're buying that's not coming from a retail storefront comes out of an industrial building. Everything. And as we increase manufacturing, that's industrial space. And we're going to make a lot more PPE. We're going to make a lot more masks, all that kind of stuff, respirators. We're going to make, and we're going to store some of the stuff. We're going to use more industrial buildings to support. I imagine someplace in some state there's going to be the national toilet paper storage. I don't know, after this last run on toilet paper. Still don't understand that one. Leisure and hospitality direct hit, folks. It's going to be slow to come back, man. Support your local businesses on this one. Keep them in business. Oil prices remain low, but it benefits 99.5% of Americans. Now, I do tweet, and I do blog. I got to show you this stuff, and so there we go. Who has questions or comments or anything else? Anybody?
Ted, there's a question in the chat from Mario. It says, what effect do you think more companies moving to the cloud and implementing more of a remote workplace will have on CRE?
on commercial real estate. Well, all right, so moving the cloud, and we're all doing that. I mean, sitting here in a hotel room in Dallas, but I could be in a hotel room in Singapore for all that knows. I could be on my place in St. John as long as I had internet doing this presentation today, although you wouldn't want to look at my body, with swimsuit on. It's structurally changing the way we do this. When we do go to the cloud, I want to make sure those servers are here and not in China. I'm personally willing to pay for cloud. Simply means there's a bunch of servers someplace, guys. It's not heaven. This isn't going to heaven in the clouds. And I want to make sure those are here. So I think we just said we're going to have more server storage space. But remember, our servers are shrinking so much in size that our current facilities may indeed handle that capacity. So I think we're just going to do more and more relied on this communicability. Guys, think about this. We have over 100 people here attached. Listen to this thing, and not one of us, you didn't even have to quit drinking your cold beverage. This is going to be the way it is. Now, for commercial real estate, I think leisure and hospitality is going to get hurt until we're safe to travel again, and then it's going to grow. I'm not worried about leisure and hospitality, but I think office space is forever changed. Think about WeWork. The hot thing 12 months ago, if we talked about it, or 24 months ago, was WeWork. We're all going to have this neat little space, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's all gone. We've proven we don't need that kind of space. But I think we have growing demand for industrial. Housing just got that much more important because we're spending that much more time here.
Okay, we've got another question from Kathleen. She asked, what about retail? The Great Recession was supposed to reduce the amount of SF per US citizen, but SF numbers started to tick up again. Will this permanently change retail for good?
I think we have permanently changed retail, and we've done it in the last 60 days, and you don't even know it. You haven't been out of your house other than to a grocery store, maybe Home Depot or Lowe's, and yet you were able to get everything you had to get to survive. One thing I forgot to talk about, do y'all realize in the last 60 days, those of us that still have our jobs probably have the largest saving chunk in a 60-day period in our lifetimes. Is there any place you can go spend it? That's one of the reasons we're looking at increased home sales down the line, because people have money for the down payments. Maybe not the whole thing, but it's helping grow that. So I think maybe this just expedited what was taking place in retail. I walked past this morning, walking up to our office at 1717 Main, I walked past Neiman Marcus. And we won't talk about Neiman, but we know Macy's teetering. And the reason that Macy's teetering is, as valuable as their real estate is, it doesn't make any sense to sell this type of items. The department store no longer is a one-size-fits-all stop. So what we're looking at now are boutiques. And you and I will pay a premium. If we need service, touch, quality, we're willing to go to a boutique and pay for all that kind of stuff, and that retail will forever be there. On the other hand, we're learning that either a big box like Costco or Lowe's or Home Depot are fine, and we're happy with those things, or if I can order it, the cheapest supplier is online delivery, great. I will tell you this, back when I was up in Seattle last year, a couple of us were having a big debate on home delivery of groceries. And they assured me that it was just as good. I said, I wouldn't order home groceries on online delivery. So we both ran the game. I went to the store. We made up a sales list. I went to the store, and they online ordered, and it was delivered to our property, to my hotel room. And we ordered things like avocados and lemons and apples and cabbages and other basic stuff. Guys, I'm not kidding you. I said, all right, you want to eat my avocado or your avocado? You want to eat my apple or your apple? And they all agreed that they wouldn't touch the stuff that was online delivered to them. They liked that personal aspect of it. So there's some certain things that we're going to forever do retail, but a lot of it we're learning is we don't need to walk in the store to do it.
Okay. We've got a question from Mark Johnson. His question is, what is going on with the cancel the rent crowd? I believe that's a big deal here in Dallas in particular.
Well, it is. Now think about what we did immediately. We immediately said that, you can miss 2 months of payments on loans if you were impacted by the coronavirus. Well, that's everyone that had a loan. What about the people that may have lost their jobs, but they still have rent? they got no relief. And then even make it worse, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, if they happen to own your loan, they even added to the 2 months. Oh, by the way, the 2 months, you can miss the 2 months with no penalty. They get added on to the end of the loan. There's just 2 more payments. No penalty, no interest, just 2 extra payments, 2 more months longer than you would have thought. Then Fannie and Freddie came out, both of them, and they said, hey, if you lost your job on this, you can apply for a 180-day extension of no payments. And there's a provision that you can do it for another 180 days. So people could technically go a full year or 14 months, 2 months and a full year without having to make a home payment. And we didn't do anything for renters on that. So kind of intriguing. I think the difference is that there's not ability to add the 2 months extra on the rent because you're occupying it. So there is some differences, but I can understand the people that are renting that were impacted, lost their jobs, don't have any money to pay rent, and they say, hey, what about us? So I do understand that aspect. But, tough, isn't it? Just y'all realize there are not good answers to some of these questions. In other words, these are issues in our society. I think the reason we haven't addressed it is they don't know how to equitably to address it.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Another question from Cameron. California was environmentally conscious and closed drive-through everything except fast food. I assume that this is the same in New York. How does society balance ecology and economic?
Ecology and economics. Well, I will tell you this right now. I think our biggest issue right now is to get this economy back up and running. And I would be very scared for people that would say what we need to do is not just get the economy started up, but let's start a new economy, a complete like on renewable, completely alternative energy and renewable energy and stuff. That would scare the heck out of me. So I think that what we were doing, let's be honest, we all should be good stewards. We should all leave this earth better than we found it. But at some point in time, at what cost? I would tell you that, yeah, it's kind of amazing. It's okay to have your In-N-Out burger and your liquor stores are still open, but you can't do anything else. That a little bit of irony in that, if you know what I mean.
Okay. This is another rent question from Larry Fusey. What will be the effect on the lack of rent payments, personal and commercial, which could lead to landlords' inability to make payments, have on the mortgage market?
Well, we actually saw the same thing in the 08-09 downturn, and that's why I showed you what sales volume was doing. You have a lot of people ended up having to sell their properties. Can't make their payments. They agreed to make it, and you can either work out a negotiation with your lender or you can have a foreclosure. And honestly, those were the terms of the contract up front. None of us anticipated this particular issue. So I think one of the reasons that we see demand for real estate kind of hesitate and halt. I mean, I showed you those massive declines, even in Dallas, Texas, of commercial real estate sales. To us 12 and 24 months later, and from the peak in 2007, I think we're going to see that some again. Remember, value is equal to income divided by the cap rate. If your income goes down, the value shrinks. If the cap rate goes up, the value shrinks. And I think we're seeing both those take place today.
There's a comment in the chat section asking about the availability of your presentation. Wanted to let everybody know that we have been recording this, and it'll be presented on our North Dallas Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel. And if we don't have any other questions, I'd like to turn it over to Ken Malcolmson for a few words.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your attendance today. Most importantly, we appreciate Ted's presence. So first and foremost, I want to personally apologize for the technical difficulties at the beginning of this, and I'm sorry Randall Graham didn't get to make his statement that he would normally have been able to make. But thank you, Randall, for introducing Ted today. Secondly, I want to thank all of our sponsors who I did not recognize at the beginning of the event. As you know, this is a Redux event. It's trying to repeat what we did at our annual economic outlook. And those sponsors are, the platinum sponsor was Ebby Halliday, the diamond sponsor was Wells Fargo Bank, gold sponsor Thompson & Knight, silver sponsors Dallas Business Journal and North Dallas Bank and Trust, supporting sponsors J.E. Dunn Construction, KLM Realty Advisors, Metro Texas Association of Realtors, National Valuation Consultants, and the SMU Real Estate Society. So thank you all to our sponsors for originally sponsoring our annual real estate conference and economic outlook, but also in effect sponsoring today's event as well. I also want to thank Ted for his nearly 3 decades of involvement with the North Dallas Chamber of Commerce. Amazing. Each time you do this, Ted, I'm looking right now at my notepad. I have 2 pages of notes right here that I've taken, as I always do during your presentations, and I'm looking forward to receiving your slides. As I tell people often, when I make presentations, invariably I will have ripped off a few of Ted Jones's slides from my presentation. So thank you again for that. And just for your benefit, Ted, we can't thank you enough, but our very small token of our appreciation, we'll be making a donation in your name to the North Texas Food Bank, thanking you for your presence today.